Hello and welcome to the May 2016 Functional Forum. We are here at the Integrated Healthcare Symposium in New York. Now you might be wondering, who's running the show this year at the Integrated Health Symposium? It's pretty obvious. Welcome to the Functional Forum. This is the 26th episode. You can watch all of the previous forums on our YouTube channel. And if this is the first time you're watching it, I just want to tell you a little bit about what we do here at the Functional Forum. We bring you the best clinical speakers from events around the country, and we also talk to you about practice development and health technology. And our intention is to help to make it easier for you to build a integrative functional medicine micro practice. We are here at the Integrative Health Symposium in New York, and we're very excited to be bringing Dr. David Perlmutter and also some of the people that come, some of the practitioners that come to the Integrative Health Symposium, as well as some of the panels that I was on digital health, community health. So it's going to be a great show. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Clara Mudge, and I'm a functional medicine nutritionist at Parsley Health. And my tip for practitioners is to collaborate. I don't think you can do anything by yourself, so identify people that get it and join forces with them. A, because you can't help other people by yourself. The key word is integrative and multi-dimensional, multidisciplined. And B, you can't help yourself by yourself. If you have a business and a brand that you want to grow, then you need friends, you need mentors, and you need strengths. And people need your strengths, so collaborate.
Hey, I'm Dr. Robin Berzin. I am the CEO and founder of Parsley Health. I am also a functional medicine physician, and if I had one tip for practicing, I would say that you want to use technology everywhere you can. So your practice should work like your iPhone, and your communication with patients should be as seamless as using an app or ordering something online. And we have the tools today to make medicine a people business truly powered by technology. So that's what we do at Parsley Health, and I hope that helps you.
Hello, welcome back to the Integrated Healthcare Symposium. One of my favorite speakers this weekend at any conference is Dr. Daniel Kraft, talking about exponential medicine. Doc, you know, one of the things that's very exciting is to see sort of the old world understanding merging with this new world of exponential medicine. For our viewers who don't know what exponential medicine means, can you give them the sort of the lowdown?
Sure. So I'm a physician. I chair the medicine side of Singularity University. And about 5 years ago, we put together a program to look at the convergence of technologies, fast-moving and some exponential technologies, and how they're going to apply to the future of health and medicine, from prevention, wellness, diagnostics, therapeutics, discovery. And so Exponential Medicine is a program we run every year in the fall, where we bring about 500 folks together from all different fields: physicians, patients, pharma, device, investors, tech, and ask, where's AI, robotics, 3D printing, nanotech, low-cost genomics, microbiome, et cetera, going? Where's it hitting the road today in terms of the clinic, prevention, diagnostics, therapy, and where's it likely to be in 2, 5, 10 years? Because many physicians, clinicians, patients, and others, it's hard to get a grasp on what's coming, even in 1 year. Just look at the magic technology on our wrists. That's exponential technology. Low-cost genomics, et cetera. And in the world of functional medicine, I think it's starting to apply itself because we now have the ability at low cost to acquire new data, whether it's from our digital exhaust or omics or metabolomics, and start to make truly evidence-based decisions, whether it's on the prevention or therapeutic side.
I mean, I've loved every time you talk. I think it's extremely inspiring, and I don't have any skin in the game because I'm not a physician. I think I've seen some physicians sort of being scared that they're going to get taken over by technology. How do you see, which doctors will be taken over first? Which type of medicine will be outsourced or delivered by technology more quickly first, do you see?
Well, I don't know, frankly, if to frame it as, we're going to replace these doctors. I think the role of the clinician is going to change in different spectrums, some fields faster than others. So if you think about fields like dermatology, radiology, pathology, what are they doing? A lot of it's pattern recognition. What are machine learning and AI and big data good at doing? They're taking big data sets, whether there's pictures of moles or x-rays, and going, what's different? What's the pattern you need to pick up on if you're a good radiologist or dermatologist? So I think those fields are going to be changing quite a bit. You're already seeing the evolution of of apps where you can send a photo to a real dermatologist, like Telederm. And we're also seeing some apps that can help determine is that a melanoma or a mole. So that means a primary care doctor who doesn't need to be a dermatologist anymore to do 80% of what a dermatologist used to do. So I think that could be disruptive. We're going to see, digital radiology and pathology evolve, which is already coming quickly. And now that machine learning is getting so powerful, there's companies that are going to be disrupting those fields. And I would argue if you're in any of those fields as a clinician, you should start to integrate that into your practice, not feel like it's going to disrupt you. So be the disruptor, not the disruptee.
Absolutely. And do you think a clinician who thinks in sort of web-like systems thinking tends to be more valuable in the future of medicine?
Well, I think any clinician who's looking at, what tools are here today, how might I start to integrate televisits or, wearable devices to help track steps or sleep, or some of these smart apps that are out there, whether it's helping manage type 2 diabetes or hypertension with a connected blood pressure cuff. That's not the future. It's here now. It's just a question of integrating that into your practice with things that you can buy on Amazon.com. Even if the payer isn't paying for it, you can get better outcomes at very low costs with some of these tools. The brave new world's coming. It's here. The opportunities for all of us to play a role in helping create it as well. And it's no one technology. It's the integration of them.
So one of the things, Doc, I know that there's a lot of fear for doctors in this area. How can doctors start to release the fear of technology and sort of really get the value of what's the potential of it?
Well, I think the trick is not to be overwhelmed by it and start to integrate it in relatively simple ways. If you're a cardiologist, maybe give your patients or get one of these little EKG phone cases and see how you might use that in managing patients with atrial fibrillation. If you've got patients with hypertension or trying to work on their diet, get them a connected scale and let that data flow through their smartphone into your medical record, which is starting to be possible. So start with minor baby steps. You don't need to transform your entire practice, but when you have an unmet need or a difficult, challenging case, or even bread and butter cases that can use technology for lower back pain, there's now a few technologies to help improve posture, for example. If it's managing blood sugar with connected glucometers to do a better job with diabetes, all those are possible. So embrace it a bit, try it out, as opposed to having fear.
That's amazing. Well, Doc, I know there are a lot of practitioners. If you watch the Functional Forum, you know that the future is this combination of functional medicine and exponential technology medicine. Where can people find out more about your work or your conferences?
So first of all, at Singularity University, we have a variety of programs, singularityU.org, crossing the spectrum from medicine, biotech, robotics, AI, 3D printing, nanotech, not just in healthcare. And then I run exponential medicine each year. This year will be October 8th through 11th, 2016 at the Hotel Del Coronado, a beautiful spot in San Diego. The website exponentialmedicine.com has a lot of our prior content and lectures and takeaways, and then you can also apply to be part of our program this year. We actually have to make it application only because we have too many folks who want to come, and we want to blend the audience across the spectrum. And if you go to exponentialmedicine.com, we have newsletters that come out each week, which what is news and technology that might impact your practice, again, across the spectrum from diagnostics to therapeutics.
Absolutely. Well, we would encourage everyone to get in touch and work with Dr. Kraft and his crew there. It's so exciting to see the new world and the old world colliding into a congruent vision for the future of medicine. Thanks so much for your consistent work and really appreciate everything. One of the things that we're most proud of here at the Evolution of Medicine and the Functional Forum is creating a vibrant community of practitioners. And so I was thrilled to be asked to be on the Community in Medicine panel that was moderated by John Weeks and featured two Minnesotans doing amazing work on the corner of community in medicine. It was Jamie Harvey and Mary Jo Kreitzer. We've got some of the best bits for you. Enjoy.
You don't have to look very far. You can open any newspaper these days, open any Facebook page, and someone's got an opinion on the political process. There's clearly an elevated conversation. There's something afoot. And pundits, I think we're all really pundits, aren't we, say there's a crisis. We're in a political crisis. And it's in this context, of course, of another crisis, the climate change. And the window to effectively mitigate climate change is closing rapidly. We have the crisis of industrial chemicals, where the wombs of mothers across the globe are bathing their children in a soup of toxic chemicals, all with a host of health impacts. And I'm not just talking about human mothers, all mothers. We have an obesity crisis that's crumbling health systems around the globe. We have this crazy notion that has extended into society of this hierarchy of human values, so that the color of our skin somehow means we have more value than others. And it's important to step back. And when I step back, what I see is really systemic inflammation at the global level. And that's what these crises are telling us. And as integrative clinicians, I think we can understand that it's important to look for some connection. And the connection that I see through all these stories is a connection of a way of thinking, a way of sort of linear reductionist thinking, a mechanistic worldview that's been embedded for the last 300 years or so, and is really the basis, foundational basis of the biomedical model. And as we're here today, we're learning that all these issues are connected, and these world problems can't be considered in isolation. And that we're faced with one complex crisis that's happening not only within healthcare and within clinical medicine, but more broadly into our communities and the planet. And so it's exciting. It's exciting in some ways and sort of terrifying in another, because we're in this we're in this era of transformation where things are shifting radically. And that's what I hear when I hear all these pundits and the fear and the language coming out from the politics of the day. But it's exciting because we have you guys, we have you gals, we have us all, because we need integrative thinkers. We need folks who can be the catalytic agents of change and sort of share what's happening out into your communities. So this is why I think the integrative health community and why are the change agents of the day, and why I want to intersect with you more, and why I'm happy to be here. So that's something, systems thinking, moving from linear to systems thinking, and it's important as we think and talk about health creation, because it's within the clinical setting, it's moving from a care of sick model to a preventative model to a health creation model. As John has shared, or I don't know if he shared, but I'm part of this sort of global think tank on health creation. We call it the Creating Health Collaborative, and we've been meeting for the last couple of years, and we have some players from around the globe, and we pull various individuals and organizations thinking about health and healthy communities together. And what we've distilled through the work, the sort of the foundational work that they're doing, a variety of principles. And when you look at them, they're sort of self-evident in many ways, but I think we tend to forget about them. And we don't really have time to delve into all of these. I'm going to touch on one or two in a moment. But I did sort of the web links there as well. We also have an ebook series that some of you might be interested in, and it's on Amazon and iBook, I guess it is. But it was a series of essays that was published by Stanford Social Innovation Review. And I think it'll be sort of a helpful collection of stories if you're interested. And it's free on the web. So just wanted to highlight those. So let's dig into one of those. And I think this is really at the core of this evolving concept of health creation. And it's that we have to let community define what matters. Because creating health is about starting from where and how people think and feel about health, and we build from there. So people don't wake up in the morning wondering about their blood pressure, their hemoglobin A1C levels, right? They want to be able to go to the park with their son, their daughter, their father, their mother, who be it, right? They want to feel secure. They want to feel and have nourishing relationships, a sense of control over one's life. Physical functioning. They want safe housing. That's what health is. It's about how one feels, right? And so we have to understand this when we're talking about health. And I think it's what you understand in the clinical setting when a patient comes. You have to meet them as a partner in this work and hear in how they feel, because that's where health starts. So that's absolutely essential. And the Commons Health Network has been having over the last 3 years, it's becoming an annual conference because people just keep saying, let's do this again, let's do this again. And what we do is we bring community organizations together with healthcare providers, insurance plans and everything. They're all sort of part of this big sort of party. We break people up into conversations. What always happens is so interesting because there's this shared interest in thinking and moving and improving health and healthy communities. But there's two different languages that are happening. There's a healthcare medicalized language that wants to improve something that sort of impose something that can only be measured. When communities could really care less about it. So we have to understand we have to start where communities start. And in this richness of conversation, this sort of interstitial pool of ideas, we're creating a whole new language. It's really exciting. The other piece that I wanted to share is that, and this is what I call place-based healthcare. And that's what I think is at the core of health creation. It's place-based. And it makes sense because this is, and we have to operate at the individual and community levels, but it makes sense because isn't health about relationship? Right? And this is where relationship happens, in the grocery store, in the park, at the soccer game, or the swimming pool, the music lessons, or wherever one may be. It's about relationship. And so many of you might be familiar with the ecological model of health, and you sort of take away all these labels and stuff. Really, at the core of this is the ecological model of health. And there's many different diagrams for this. But at the core, and it's this notion of working at the individual and community levels is interesting, because when you look at the Aboriginal community health, the Aboriginal community in Australia, the Aboriginals have a definition of health that doesn't divide health from the individual and community level. Health means to them the health of and the spiritual health and well-being of the community and of they as individuals. There's no two separate definitions. It's the same as many of the First Nation peoples in my home country of Canada. You don't have individual and community health. It's one and all. So we have to operate at those levels and think of the health of individual and communities one and the same. So I'm going to just share some offerings from some of this work and my experiences over the last 10 or 15 years in the hopes that it will sort of stir some conversation for a dialogue after we're done. A couple of these things are what I think are as exciting and have some potential, or I get a little bit excited about. And there's something called the Community Health Needs Assessments. I don't know if any of you have heard about these, but it's a requirement that has come out of the Affordable Care Act, and it's sort of something that's not really talked about, but I think has some really some exciting opportunities to catalyze health creation. And the piece of it that is exciting is that there's a requirement that hospitals engage with their communities and have them as partners in these health assessments. And there's a whole variety of it's limited in many ways, but what's exciting is that for the first time, really, hospitals and are having to sit down with communities and sort of share a conversation. And it's through this conversation that change can really happen. And the other piece that's somewhat related are primarily funded right now through statewide and federal innovation grants. These are called Accountable Communities for Health, or Accountable Communities models. And I don't know if anyone just here is familiar with those. But similar, these are place-based models of, we can call them healthy communities or health creation. But what it does is it forces healthcare institutions within a place, right, a geographical location, to actually sit down together with their community. And so that's unique, because we have to understand the community sees these towers of glass and steel as sort of separate from themselves, and they're in competition. And why would hospitals and healthcare compete? It's sort of this strange notion. And if you step back, community doesn't get this. So it sort of forces a whole new and even more elevated dialogue than what's happening within the CHNA process. So that's where I get excited. I just want to talk about food, because I think food, and good food really, and food system is really where we're going to see a lot of this catalytic health creation work. And is anyone here familiar with the term good food? So there's some of us. So I'm just going to share what good food is. And what's exciting to me is sort of this transformation of the good food movement into actual prototypes of good food models. And let me share what those are. Over the last 15 years or so, a variety of the actors interested in a variety of sort of food-based value systems have been coming together and sort of hammering out and having dialogue around what is healthy food. And they realize healthy has sort of been captured by the medical industrial complex, if you will. It's sort of medicalized food and made food a nutrient. So it's not really about food as medicine, right? It's about food as health. And so the good food community has brought the values of humane treatment of animals, environmental sustainability, so the use of hormones and pesticides and so forth, the labor conditions in the fields and the fair treatment of workers throughout the whole value chain in restaurants and so forth, and then local socioeconomic health. And so the term good food incorporates all those different value systems. It's really a systemic approach, right? So it's not one component of food, it's a broad systemic approach. And this is where we have to move. And so what happened last year, even the Institutes of Medicine has recognized that we need to take a systemic approach if we're going to solve the challenges of the 21st century of our food system. So this movement is moving into models. And in cities such as Chicago and now right now in Minneapolis, Seattle, Oakland, and LA, organizations and even governments are pushing their anchor institutions, the colleges and universities and hospitals and so forth, that buy substantial volumes of food to adopt clear metrics and provide some sunshine and transparency. And this has the potential in the next couple of years to radically shift and build local food models. Very, very exciting. And we have to remember as well, even though there's sort of this ongoing battle around GMO labeling, so there's been this radical shift within the packaged food industry where the market share has changed. It's lost $4 billion if people have moved to fresh and organic over the last year. It's changing rapidly. So in this period of transformation, there's some exciting work within sort of the whole food system model that's happening. So I'm about to close here, but I think this sort of circles back to how I started, sort of a lot of the challenges and crises that we're seeing that are really connected. And if we're truly going to be able to move forward, I think we have to move forward with unconditional love. And I was going to joke and say this is probably the easiest piece, but really we all know it's the hardest work that we have to do. Because what we have out there is we're having to shift paradigms that have been put in place for 300 years, 400 years. And we're having to redo many of our systems, food systems, industrial systems, energy systems, and it's going to change and challenge people. And so we have to build and improve our skills of deep listening and use techniques such as meditation and mindfulness and so forth. So I think we should be collectively excited by how these various practices can improve our ability to work with an open mind.
Hello and welcome to this special interlude for the Functional Forum. We heard last year that some of you felt like there was too much content in these pre-recorded forums and it was hard to keep your brain active throughout the whole time. So here's a little bit of classical music to give your brain a little bit of time to recover. We are back at the Integrated Health Symposium with Susan Luck. Susan, all the way through the Functional Forum, we've talked about this sort of congruence of functional medicine and coaching. And I know you've been in the nurse coaching world for a long time and leading that. Why do you feel like nurses are the right people to play the coaching role in an optimal healthcare team?
That's a great question. There's a lot of coaches in many different disciplines that have been studying and practicing coaching. What we feel about nurses is because we're in all healthcare settings, locally to globally, and we have this unique role of being involved in healthcare and often being educators and advocates for patients, families, and communities. The coaching role gives us access to also work with people in that lived moment to really address their concerns and their lifestyle behaviors and the potential for change. So nurses are in a position where we can be expert educators and we can also coach. So we bring a variety of potential change to the people that we're working with.
Do you think coaching, the skills of coaching, comes naturally to a nurse?
Well, I think we don't need to study trust, relationship, patient-centered care. We have a holistic perspective. We see the whole person, culture, community, environment, the context with which the social determinants of health are part of their physiology. We have a presence energetically with the people we work with, and the trust allows for an openness that truly allows for change to happen.
Hello, I hope you're enjoying the Functional Forum coming live from New York from the Integrated Health Symposium. While I've got your attention, I just wanted to let you know about a really exciting event that we have coming up on the 15th of May 2016. As you may know, the annual international conference for the Institute for Functional Medicine is the 12th to the 14th of May in San Diego. And we're excited to announce that we are partnering with the Institute for Functional Medicine to deliver the official IFM post-conference, practice management post-conference that's going to be on Sunday the 15th of May from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time, and you're going to be able to watch it anywhere in the world for free. We're going to be wrapping up the conference, what was learned, what's on the cutting edge of functional medicine. We're really excited to bring you some of the providers that put together the conference and some people's experience of the conference. Then, and most importantly, we are going to be bringing you something that you can't get anywhere else, which is the IFM's data from their recent practice management survey. They had over 1,000 practitioners fill out a 45-minute survey and have the most incredible data set that's ever been created on what it takes for functional medicine practitioners to truly be successful in practice. And we're going to go through that data. I think you'll be amazed. I think this may even be the most important thing that most practitioners should ever watch, because it's going to tell you how to be more successful in practice with a significant amount of data that's never been delivered like this before. You're going to hear from Tom Blue, the Chief Strategy Officer of the American Academy of Private Physicians, and he's also one of the board of the IFM, and also you're going to hear from Laurie Hoffman, who's the CEO of IFM. And then we're also going to spend the last hour talking about how to actually take advantage of this data and how to put things into practice to build a more successful, more efficient functional medicine practice. I highly recommend that you save the date right now, Sunday, the 15th of May, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. It'll be available on our website. If you can't make it live, we will be recording it. I hope you can join us. We'll see you there. Back to David Perlmutter and the rest of the Functional Forum from the Integrated Health Symposium. Hello and welcome back to the Integrated Health Symposium. We are here at the Evolution of Medicine Technology Suite, and if you're a fan of the Functional Forum, you know that we're big fans of IGBO, the quote-unquote Uber for phlebotomists. And I have a real story here today, is that my wife is in Sacramento and just sent me a picture of her with an Iggy getting her lab blood drawn today, and it was sent out. So this is an authentic story happening right now. I was speaking at the digital health panel earlier and essentially told everyone about IGBO, the Uber for phlebotomist. Everyone was very excited. I have Anne here. If you're a doctor and you call IGBO, Anne is who you're going to speak to. And tell us about what people are excited about when it comes to IGBO on the doctor side.
What doctors love about IGBO is that we connect the blood from the patients to the labs they want to draw. They want to have an autonomous practice. They want to be able to provide the top standard of care of their practice, and they want to do it in a convenient way. So IGBO is that connector and that mediator of quality of care. And as your wife just had a testimonial, we really want to deliver that service. We want to flip that clinic. We want to escalate the conversation of a provider with their patient, and we want to do it on their terms. And we really want to help connect labs with docs.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Rose. I'm a clinical hypnotist and nutritionist practicing here in New York City. The tip I'd like to share with you would be to never use an alarm clock. In fact, I use an alarm clock probably twice a year. I have to catch an international flight or I have to go on an early TV show in the morning. Otherwise, you don't want to use that. If you use an alarm clock, you're waking up with a jolt of adrenaline, which we want if there's some reason to be fearful. Also, you're going to wake up every day with excess cortisol, which means you're going to have more stress. Your short-term and long-term memory are impaired. Your immune system weakens. Your mood is worse. You age faster. Also, your metabolism slows down and your appetite increases. You may know that your body goes into an emergency mode when you're sleep deprived, and it's going to start slowing down, and your appetite's going to increase. So I think just getting the sleep you need, 7.5 hours, or waking up without an alarm clock will really help you, because if you're using an alarm clock to wake up, you know you would be sleeping longer. And whatever time you wake up in the absence of an alarm clock is exactly how much sleep you need. It's not a negotiable thing. And I think it's worth maybe having a little less time to do everything you need to do in that day, but you'll be sharper, you'll be more focused, and you'll be happier.
We are here with Dr. David Brady at the Integrated Health Symposium. His book comes out next month. It's called The Fibro Fix. Doc, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are working with fibromyalgia patients. What's the key to your method that's been so successful?
Oh, well, thank you, James. Thanks for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. I think the biggest deal is proper diagnosis. You know, fibromyalgia is one of these disorders that, you know, healthcare providers don't really learn about they don't learn about it enough in their training to really accurately diagnose and deal with these patients. So a lot of people get thrown that label or that diagnosis of fibromyalgia. They get sent down treatment paths for actual fibromyalgia that are not appropriate for them, because often they have other things that are fly below the radar of the conventional trained physician. So one of my missions is to really help integrative and functional practitioners in particular really tease through the different nuances of these patients who come in complaining of fatigue, of achiness all over, of anxiety, of unrefreshed sleep and IBS, and figure out actually what really is wrong with them, because as they say, you know, proper diagnosis is half the cure.
So, you know, we talk a lot about root cause resolution here at the Functional Forum. What are some of the undiagnosed root causes of fibromyalgia that a practitioner trained in functional medicine can get to the root of?
Well, you know, fibromyalgia in its true sense, or what we call classic fibromyalgia, is a deep-seated brain pain processing disorder, which is associated with aberrant stress responses and failure to just really process information correctly in the brain. It's not a muscle disorder, and that's, you know, true fibromyalgia, but many more people who get told they have fibromyalgia, who think they do, don't have that at all. They have other things, and we call those the fibromyalgia masqueraders. So they appear with the same symptoms. And the three biggest ones, the three biggest masqueraders, which I talked about yesterday, are underappreciated or underdiagnosed thyroid disorders that are not picked up, mitochondrial energy production, biochemistry issues in the mitochondria where the patient doesn't make enough ATP, and then the third one is structural issues, really problems in the muscles like myofascial pain syndrome, trigger points, and other things that truly are structural. Because real fibromyalgia, or classic fibromyalgia, is not a muscle problem, it's not a structural problem, it's a brain problem.
Well, look, there's obviously a lot of pieces to it, and glad to hear that you're doing a summit to bring together all of those different ideas together. So check out the FibroFix Summit. It's coming out in June, and also the book. Dr. David Brady, as ever, pleasure to have you on the forum. Hello, if you've been watching the Functional Forum for a long time, you know that our most consistent sponsor over the last year and a half has been Freedom Practice Coaching. And they are helping to deal with a real epidemic in medicine, which is the epidemic of mediocrity in business training for practitioners. And Freedom Practice Coaching has a very full, immersive 3-year program, and a number of practitioners that watch the forum have signed up. And so we thought it might be good to go and speak to one of the practitioners who's been successful in practice and share with you her journey of going from being not successful in practice to being really successful in practice. We went to go and see Dr. Jill Cole in Phoenix, Arizona, and here's her story.
Everybody that goes to naturopathic medical school, for the most part, goes because they care and they want to help people, and they really don't have a background in business, and they certainly don't understand how to run a clinic. 94% of all failure is due to not having a system, and so most of us, in my experience, that are naturopaths aren't very great at putting systems together. You have to get a coach, a business coach, somebody that knows what they're doing, that can mentor you, guide you, and teach you how to run a successful business, how to run a successful clinic, because there are so many working parts. There's so much that needs to be in place. What I like to say is I needed a fire under my butt to really get me going, and to take on that commitment to FPC, you know, financially. Again, it's the same thing that I'm asking my patients to do, right? It's, I need you to invest in something if you want to have a result. So I needed to invest in myself in order to have the result that I wanted, which was a structure, business coaching, and a practice model that made sense, that changed the world, that changes my patients' lives, not just short term, but for the rest of their life, and then would eventually create something that I have always wanted, which is financial freedom. So the new information that I learned with FPC was groundbreaking for me because, gosh, several things. They had a support system, number one, so there was support in every aspect of the practice. I had a structure and a practice model that was different from anything that I had done before. but that made sense to me because in addition to figuring out what was going on with someone and being able to help them clinically, I now had a structure where I could actually educate them and teach them how to get healthy and stay healthy long term, whereas in regular practice, seeing patients back to back, it didn't afford me that opportunity to really educate people, and that's really where the power is in the education. So they've been absolutely unbelievable and pivotal in teaching me business and supporting me in business, and you just have to take what they give you, learn it, practice it, and do it. Our staff is really great because, especially coming to the quarterly trainings, they really get to see and experience what's possible and the growth that's possible. Also, what I love about this is we're all a team. It's not there's a boss and there are employees. It's we are a family. And actually everybody that's in our practice, all our practice members, our patients are like family. So we're all here to support each other, and the model for the office staff is just, it's beautiful. My time is very, very structured. The layout is very different from a standard conventional, you see a patient, you do labs, you treat them. There's an order to which things happen, and there's a really big, solid foundation in education that everybody receives so that they can have that foundation for the rest of their life.
Hope you enjoyed that from Dr. Jill Cole. Freedom Practice Coaching for the last year and a half has really only offered one program, which was a 3-year, fairly high-touch and expensive program that would help you build your successful practice. Now, if you've been following our emails, you know that we brought out a practice accelerator last month, but we challenged Freedom Practice Coaching to put together a program that would teach people how to run their system, how to build these packages that are more effective for chronic disease, how to sell those packages, lead flow, automation, pre-education. And so we're very excited to announce that Freedom Practice Coaching now has a new program that's a weekend seminar, a boot camp, where you can go down and learn their practice system, as well as have a 90-day plan after the weekend to implement it. Now this is going to be about $3,000 for a weekend, but for the month of May, they have offered a special to anyone who watches the Functional Forum. It's going to be $1,500 for a weekend. It's going to be super valuable. Go to goevomed.com/FPC and you can sign up for their weekend training. It really is one of the most effective systems that we've seen out there, and now for a much, much smaller price, you can go and learn about their system and create a structure to implement it into your practice. I highly recommend it. Thanks very much for watching. Hello and welcome back. One of the biggest questions that we always get at the Functional Forum is, when are you going to have Dr. David Perlmutter on the show? Well, the good news is we have him this month, and he is here at the Evolution of Medicine. It's the Integrative Health Symposium, and we're excited to have him here on the Functional Forum. Dr. Perlmutter.
Oh, good to see you.
Good to see you again. So, Doc, we're about to have your talk here on the microbiome, and tell us a little bit about what the audience can expect.
Sure. So it's beyond the microbiome. What we're really interested in talking about today is what makes health and even looking at disease processes similar. What are the broad strokes? And in that, we're looking at the broad strokes in terms of diet, in terms of other lifestyle factors, but as James mentioned, through the lens of this 100 trillion organisms that live within us. So really trying to tease apart the idea that, well, there's a heart-smart diet and a brain-smart diet and a diet to keep your bones nice and strong, and maybe a diet to help prevent your risk of, or lower your risk of cancer and reduce your risk of diabetes. Turns out that we know what the broad strokes are in terms of dietary and lifestyle recommendations, but we're looking at those issues now through the lens of the microbiome. In other words, how do our lifestyle choices affect the microbiome, and thereafter, how does that microbiome do its thing to keep us healthy?
You know, I really enjoyed the talk, and it's funny listening to a neurologist speaking about type 2 diabetes and other issues that a neurologist wouldn't talk about. What is it about what you've learned that makes the microbiome such an amazing advantage to be able to make impact in all those other diseases?
Well, we know that the microbiome affects things like inflammation, the set point of immunity, produces various chemicals that are important for brain function, for brain protection. And so really exercises a huge amount of control over so many of our body's most fundamental processes. And we're just beginning to get our arms around that and beginning to understand that we can leverage this information and create a better internal environment as it relates to brain health and general health.
Great. Well, we are thrilled to bring Dr. David Perlmutter to you on the Functional Forum. We're excited to bring you a lot of his talk. We'll have more of it for you. Check out the show and take it away, Dr. David Perlmutter.
Medicine has splitters and groupers. And what do I mean by that? Well, splitters is really this reductionist mentality of looking at diseases in their most unique states and trying to develop through, again, reductionist mentality, specific treatments for specific illnesses. Hence, we have the ICD-10 now, the ICD-10 coding that we all use in our offices. And just to give you a sense about what this is all about, there are now 68,000 disease codes in the ICD-10. Think about that. And I just wanted, since I've been given 5 extra minutes today, just to look at a couple of these to show you, some information I think is really very important. This is one of my favorite codes, V9107XA. We live in Florida, so we actually see a lot of this. This is a burn due to water skis on fire initial encounter. Now, I'm not making this up. So this is initial encounter. I mean, there's got to be a follow-up code. My next favorite is 5612XA. We see actually not so much of this. This is struck by a sea lion initial encounter. And then, of course, 6162XA. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Struck by a duck initial encounter. Amazingly, I am not making this up. If you look in your ICD-10 manuals, you will see these codes. Who petitioned? You wonder why healthcare is so expensive in America, is because somebody's job was to get this into the ICD-10. Well, then we have groupers. So these are people who split things into finer and finer categories. Then we have what are called grouper. Now, again, I live in Florida, and when you say grouper, that's what people are thinking about. That's how we catch grouper. It's called straight hooking. But in reality, my mission is to look at how things are similar as opposed to how they differ. And that is to say, I'd like to really spend the next 4.5 hours with you talking about the broad strokes. What are the similarities between these disease processes? Dr. Merrill talked about the notion that now chronic degenerative conditions are the #1 health concern on the planet, even in third world countries. It's not infectious disease. It's not Zika virus, though, you watch the news at night and another 12 or 17 cases in Florida just happened, so, the world's coming to an end. But the reality is that we're being crippled by chronic degenerative, inflammatory conditions. And my mission really is to look at that notion, but to look at it through the lens of the microbiome. Now, my challenge today was by the Integrative Healthcare Symposium team is to talk about the role of microbial diversity as it relates to our health and risk for disease. So we're going to focus on that. But I want to make it a bigger issue for us all, to recognize that, in fact, we don't just need to be concerned about the microbiome living within us. That's sort of an anthropocentric mentality that science generally takes. Well, what does it have to do with me? We have to understand that there are researchers around the world who are looking, for example, at the microbiome of the oceans. The ocean is very, very rich with microbial organisms and microbial diversity. And in fact, the health of the planet depends upon this diversity of organisms living within the oceans. And this is a research study that shows the various areas that they studied and found some very interesting things. That in fact, when you look and compare the intestinal microbiome with the microbiome of the ocean, the gut is an anaerobic environment. It is a fairly constant temperature and, for example, isn't exposed to sunlight, as opposed to the ocean. The sun shines at least on the upper portion of it. It's an aerobic environment, and there's a highly, highly variable temperature going from extremes of temperature in these vents that are down in great depths to, obviously freezing. But yet, there is a 73% concordance rate functionally of the organisms that live in the ocean
in comparison to what are living in your body right now. And that's really a remarkable consideration, isn't it? To think that, you know, we consider that bacteria and organisms living within us have evolved to take up residence within us, but actually the organisms are very much shared with what is found in the ocean. The organisms living within us have the genes for photosynthesis. Now, most of us don't have a lot of sunlight shining within our colons most of the time, but you know, isn't that where they get that statement? Well, let's put something where the sun don't shine. You've heard that, and I just thought of that too. I didn't add that one in. I'm multitasking here, writing jokes at the same time and giving a lecture. Awful fun. And amazingly, and that there are genes within the microbes living in the ocean for carbohydrate metabolism. Why would that be? So it's just interesting to consider that even from a mechanistic perspective, from a functional perspective, how much overlap there is. The fundamental way in which many microbes function has not changed in hundreds and hundreds of millions of years. So this evolution of these microbes that we like to think has finally characterized the human microbiome actually has its roots in the ocean from a long time ago. Let's talk about this relationship and really this great debt that we owe to microorganisms. And this is the primordial Earth. And what happened a long, long time ago in a planet not so far away was that there was a mutation in these cyanobacteria where they suddenly developed chlorophyll. And that made all the difference in the world. Because at that point we could develop an atmosphere that contained oxygen that would support our lives, that would support this relationship, for example, that we have with our mitochondria, that allowed everything that we know in terms of living beings to arise. Oh, let me go back for just a moment. That was actually Florida. Anyway, so all that goes on around us in terms of the life we see really owes a great debt to that simple mutation in those bacteria that allowed photosynthesis to occur. Well, my interest, of course, has been the brain and what goes on within the brain. And as I've spoken at this meeting over the years, and most of the time here in at this hotel, I'm talking about energetics of the brain and free radical mediated pathology and how flaws of mitochondrial function ultimately lead to apoptosis or pre-programmed cell death. The brain is a highly energetic, energy-demanding organism, utilizing 25% of our calories at rest, while it only represents 5% of our total body weight. When we look at that, we think mitochondria. And we think about this relationship that we have with these mitochondria and understand that mitochondria were very likely bacteria that took up residence in what would then be eukaryotic cells. I mean, this is a mitochondrion, but looks for all the world like a bacterium, doesn't it? Dr. Lynn Margulis talked about this way back in 1968, looking at mitochondria, looking at their circular DNA, which is like bacterial DNA. And, this is another relationship than we have if you consider mitochondria to have a microbial origin. Then this is yet another player in the realm of our relationship, in the understanding of our relationship with microorganisms. Then we can look at the cosmos. We went to the planetarium. You should really go to the Museum of Natural History here yesterday, and Neil deGrasse Tyson narrates this incredible tour through the cosmos. But it's true that we think of this incredible amount of information in the universe, and yet, as Julian Davis talks about, once the diversity of the microbial world is cataloged, it will make astronomy look like a pitiful science. I mean, that's a kind of a harsh assessment, but the amount of information within the microbiome is incredibly, incredibly vast. These bacteria, outnumber our own body cells by a factor of 10 to 1, but the microbes in and of themselves represent a vast repository of information. And recently that statistic of that the bacteria outnumber our own cells 10 to 1 was challenged. Somebody wrote something in it, so of course my email box got filled. Okay, there are 10 times as many phage particles as there are bacteria, so I can regain my composure here and recognize, if you look at the microbes in general, that there are a lot of them. But let's talk about these mitochondria for just a moment. Again, very much looking like bacteria, and this really spans then the spectrum, looking at the cosmos and the vastness of the universe and the very smallest of organisms within our bodies, the phages, and of course, looking at the microbiome. So, as I mentioned, Dr. Lynn Margulis, who in 1968 published this notion, she tried to publish it, and she was rejected 14 times by peer-reviewed journals. And finally, Journal of Theoretical Biology decided it would publish it, take a chance, and they were right. But this notion that the mitochondria were once free-living organisms that took up residence within our cells, I mean, it was thought to be basically heretical that someone would conceive of such a notion. And we think of Dr. Margulis and what an achievement this has become in terms of how it's become recognized. And on the other side of the scale, when we think of the billions and billions of stars in the universe, of course, you always think of Carl Sagan, right? And how amazing that they were husband and wife. I mean, you talk about spanning the cosmos and the microbial universe. What would those dinner discussions have been about, you know? She'd say, I was looking under the microscope today, and he'd say, I bet there were billions and billions of mitochondria. And she'd say, yes, but I'm really getting tired of hearing that. But nonetheless, I want to get back to the notion of grouping things and looking at the broad strokes. Because, you know, the idea that there's a heart-smart diet and then a different diet that you would need if you wanted to protect your brain. Oh, and I don't want to become diabetic, and I don't want to have cancer. The idea that there would be a special diet for each of those things doesn't make sense at all. There has to be the broad strokes in terms of dietary recommendations that have allowed us to survive to get to this place today to have this conversation. I mean, 2 million years worth of survival allowed us to get here. So we have to understand that that these diseases, for example, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autism, MS, stroke, depression, ADHD, the neurologic conditions, but well beyond that, the coronary artery disease, diabetes, and cancer, we've encompassed a large percentage of the things that are crippling our society just with this one slide. We could go on and on. We could go back to the ICD-10 codes, and I don't think water disease on fire would necessarily qualify, but a lot of that book are going to be conditions that are induced by our lifestyle choices. I hate to say it, but I hate to say blame, but I'm going to say it anyway. It puts the responsibility, let's say that, upon us to stay healthy, because we don't have a treatment for Alzheimer's disease. None whatsoever. Not even for the symptoms. We can manage the symptoms of Parkinson's, tremor and rigidity, but we don't treat the underlying condition. There's nothing that treats autism. But we're going to look at that. MS, there are some disease-modulating medicines that are out there. One of them is called vitamin D. People have strokes. It's an inflammatory condition. Depression, you know, the effectiveness of the SSRI antidepressant medications are about maybe a percentage or two above the effectiveness of placebo. ADHD, yeah, you know, we load up our children with amphetamines. That's reasonable. Coronary artery disease, diabetes, and cancer. We're talking about prevention here, and we're talking about prevention through the lens of the 100 trillion friends that we have who want us to be healthy, because we're giving them that wonderful, warm, wet, dark place to live, and they're really happy about their digs. So we have to look at these issues now through the lens of these our microbiota. So we understand that these commensal flora, I love the term commensal. Co means with, mensa means eat. You know, they say when a woman is pregnant, oh, you've got to be careful now, you're eating for 2. Well, you're each eating for 100 trillion. Think about that. Everything that you eat is either going to nurture or it's going to be damaging to your microbiome. And if it's damaging to your microbiome, guess what? It feeds back to your genome, it feeds back to your metabolism. I'm not sure where I go with this. Yes. This came from this article. So what are the factors then that favor symbiosis? Getting along, living in symbiotic relationship with our gut bacteria. A diet that's high in fiber, specifically a diet that's high in prebiotic fiber. being born by natural birth, passing through the birth canal, where we are anointed. I use the word. Anyway, long story. We are anointed with not just the bacterial organisms, but with their genetic information. We'll talk about that later. Breastfeeding, exposure to microbes, playing in the dirt, not being so obsessed with hygiene. Consumption of probiotics in our food, for example, and having favorable genetics sets us up for this wonderful relationship where we can resolve immunity, we can balance our immune system. We reestablish bacterial integrity, barrier integrity of the epithelium, the one cell lining our intestines. We regulate neutrophil activity. We reduce T helper cell 17 activity, and we increase Treg, which helps to balance the immune system, and interleukin 10, which we'll talk about later on. But things that favor dysbiosis, or this inappropriate relationship with our gut bacteria, using antibiotics, other medications, the antibiotics in our livestock. Obesity changes our gut bacteria, and our gut bacteria increase risk of obesity. Our obsession with hygiene, the typical Western diet, very low in prebiotic fiber, stress, and of course pathogenic bacteria. This sets the stage for inflammation, immune issues, and even cancer. Cancer is fundamentally an inflammatory condition.
Hello and welcome to the Evolution of Medicine Technology Suite at the Integrated Health Symposium. We are checking out the technologies that are improving the effectiveness of chronic disease, and one of the new ones that is launching here at this conference is Embody 360. We're here with Ed Keenan, one of the founders of it. So Ed, this has been your big moment to launch. What are doctors saying so far?
So far, everyone's really excited about it. We're excited to be here, of course, because this is our crowd. We're excited to present Embody 360 because of the tool that it represents for these practitioners. It's a perfect tool for functional and integrative practitioners to create plans, implement those plans, and deliver them in a mobile app for their clients to track and engage with. So far the reactions have been very good.
So what are some of the features of Embody 360 that makes it a unique offering?
Well, I think one of the most powerful things is the ability to deliver a complete health and wellness plan in a mobile app. An app that is very easy for the end user, the client, or the patient to track with, and combined with a very informative, powerful back end, if you will, our practitioner portal, which gives the practitioner a bird's eye view of everything going on with their patients and clients. So they can really provide that support that they need in between visits.
Absolutely. Obviously, active tracking is important. Passive tracking, interaction with a coach. It seems like Embody is trying to put that all in together into one package.
Well, really, yeah, I would agree. I think that we designed Embody 360 to really sit at the nexus, if you will, between the patient, the practitioner, the plan, right? And there's a fourth piece, which is really the plethora of wearable devices, fitness trackers, and apps that are online now with Apple Health and with Fitbit. So the beauty of this platform is that it actually pulls all that data in. You could say it's really unprecedented access to data for a health coach, and it brings it all into a place where they can understand it, they can gain insight, and they can lean forward, if you will, to work with their patients and clients.
Hi, I'm Peter Bongiorno. I'm a naturopathic doctor and a licensed acupuncturist who practice here in New York and also on Long Island. And I would say my one tip of the day would be, well, let me preface it. As a naturopathic doctor, I really like to work on the underlying issues. I like to work on sleep and food and water and exercise and working on stress and working on the right nutrients and the right herbs and the right supplements and acupuncture to really help a person thrive. Having said that, if I had to pick one thing for a practitioner, it would be really connecting with your patient and maybe giving them a hug at the end of the visit. And the reason why I say that is because no matter the therapies and the modalities we use, they're so much more effective when the person we're working with really feels the connection to us. And I find asking permission, asking for a hug, giving them a hug at the end of the session becomes one way we can really connect with our clients, with our patients, and really help them feel the love and the care that we're emanating. So that would be my tip for the day. So have a great day. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Iserloh, and this is my 1-minute tip for functional doctors. We all know that food is definitely medicine, but you have to make sure that you're ready to take it a step further for patients and have an arsenal of delicious, healthy, easy recipes for them to take home. I'm a chef and a health coach, and I know how important it is to make these foods accessible and also delicious so that people are enjoying them and using their healing properties each and every day.
Hi, I'm Laura Logano, and I'm an integrative clinical nutritionist, and I have co-founded something called the Holistic Cannabis Network. And my tip for you is to be open-minded about cannabis, because this is really an evolution and the forefront of natural medicine. Let's get rid of the stigma, move the conversation forward, and think about how medical marijuana can apply in your clinical practice.
Hello and welcome back to the Integrative Health Symposium 2016. I've had a lot of questions over time. Why haven't we got Dr. Dwight McKee on the Functional Forum? So glad to be here. I just grabbed him over for the signing book. He's signing his new book, After Cancer Care. Doc, you've been in the integrated cancer world for a long time. What is it about this book that's going to be a game changer?
Well, we wrote this book for people who've been treated for cancer, they're in remission, and they want to reduce the risk of relapse reduce the risk of their cancer ever coming back. There's solid data that exercise alone, 150 minutes a week, reduces the risk of relapse by 50%. If that was a drug, it would be a blockbuster and front page news. Stress management, a simple technique called progressive muscle relaxation, which is one of a menu of stress management techniques, was studied by Barbara Anderson at Ohio State University over a period of 7 years with hundreds of patients, reduced the risk of relapse in high-risk breast cancer patients by 68%.
Yeah.
We don't know if you put together nutrition, exercise, stress management, and social connectivity, which are the kind of the four cornerstones that we address in the book, as well as reducing personal exposure to toxins by the choices that you make. We don't know, because it hasn't been studied yet in aggregate, whether those are synergistic, additive, but we know that we can reduce the risk by at least 50%. And the economics of that is enormous, because every relapse in cancer is an average of $300,000 to $500,000 of treatment, not to mention the human suffering involved.
Absolutely. I would just say one thing. My mother had breast cancer, and she said, ignorance was the disease and cancer was the cure. It was a moment of awakening for her to understand what it was going on.
One of the most teachable moments. And the strategies that reduce the risk of relapse are obviously strategies that will reduce the risk of ever getting cancer in the first place. Yeah. And we are living in an increasing epidemic of cancer, and we know that it is lifestyle related, but it's more than that, because pediatric cancers have been increasing for 20 years. Yeah. That's not lifestyle related. It's the food supply and the environment.
And transgenerational epigenetics, right?
Exactly, the Pottinger effect.
Yeah, exactly. So Doc, you've got the practitioner community that you're speaking to here. If you could give them one tip to up-level the quality of integrative cancer care across the country, or integrative medicine, what would be that tip?
Well, I would recommend that they give any of their patients that have been treated for cancer, are being treated for cancer, have high risk for cancer based on family history or occupational exposure, to give them this book. It saved them a lot of time in teaching and explaining. If people just embrace these four simple things: exercise, nutrition, stress management, and social connectivity, and reducing their exposure to toxins, they're going to dramatically improve the quality of their life. They're going to change their post-cancer experience from one of anxiety every time they go back for their 6-month check, are they going to find something, to one of empowerment, because as they feel better, their anxiety goes down and they start to be in control of the situation instead of at risk and at effect of the situation.
Right. Well, I know a lot of practitioners we're working with patients after cancer. So check out the book, After Cancer Care, Dr. Dwight McKee. Great to have you eventually on the forum. We'll see you again in Santa Cruz sometime soon.
Thank you so much, Juice.
Hi, my name is Dr. Felice Gersh, and I am the Medical Director of the Integrative Medical Group of Irvine, located in Orange County, California. I was speaking with James Maskell this morning, and I said I have about 100 tips, so I'm going to give you as many as I can in the next minute. The first one is you need to speak the language of your patients. They haven't been through the integrative medicine or functional medicine courses that you've probably gone through, so don't talk about things like leaky gut. Talk about things like irritable bowel syndrome or GI upset, nausea, vomiting. Talk about the symptoms because they may not understand what you're talking about if you talk in the language of a functional medicine doctor. Another tip is make sure you do get educated. You don't think that just a weekend course once a year or talking with a nutraceutical rep is going to get you where you need to go. Really take the time to go do one of the programs, get certified. There's many organizations now that really go through very organized training programs. The other thing for your practice is don't forget to educate your staff. They didn't do the programs that you've done either. They won't know how to communicate with your patients or be enthusiastic if they don't understand what functional integrative medicine is. Another tip is be sure you have a mission statement. If you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, no one else will either in your practice, and you won't know either. And define what your goals are. What do you want? Do you want to become a famous speaker, an author, or do you want to have a vibrant and successful medical practice? If you don't decide what you want, you're not going to ever get there. So those are just a few of many, many suggestions I would love to share with you. I've been doing this myself now for several years and learning as I go. Oh, one last tip I must give you, okay? Because I struggled with this, and that is develop a niche. Because no one Googles, I want the doctor that knows how to do everything. And so myself, I'm an integrative doctor with a background as a board certified OBGYN. So I finally, after years of struggling with this, have identified myself as an integrative hormone expert and just branded myself as the hormone authority. I actually got that as my brand. And so I'm going to create a new website and really specialize in hormones, although of course, like all of you, I believe I can do just about everything, but you can't promote yourself as the everything doctor. So find your niche, find your mission, define your goals, educate, and stay true to yourself and what you want to accomplish. And good luck.
So if you've been watching the Functional Forum, you know that for a long time, the only sponsors that we've had on the Functional Forum have been technologies and trainings that help to improve the efficiency of the delivery of functional medicine. Heart rate variability has been studied all around the world at some of the most prestigious universities. There's over 40 clinical studies documented its efficacy. And so we asked around our community, we said, look, what's the best heart rate variability machine? And without doubt, it came back that it was HeartMath. HeartMath is one of the most prestigious companies in this whole space. Over 5 million people have used HeartMath. Over 25,000 health professionals around the world recommend HeartMath to their patients. And if you listen to our podcast last week, you can see that it can actually play an incredibly important role in creating empowerment. Empowerment of the patient happens when they learn to do things to control themselves. And learning to control your emotional state is one of the biggest things that we can do as health practitioners to empower patients. And so we're really thrilled to have HeartMath as one of our new sponsors. If you go to goevomed.com/HeartMath, you can order and from HeartMath. And we're going to be doing a special webinar with HeartMath where we're going to be creating a special deal for practitioners to go through the training, to learn about HeartMath, and to turn this not only into something that really affects the adherence of their patients, but also becomes a serious income opportunity for the practice. So please save the date and join us on Monday, the 23rd of May at 8 o'clock Eastern as we take you through HeartMath as a powerful tool for heart rate variability and also share with you a special deal that we've created with HeartMath to be able to help you to implement it in your practice. Welcome back to the Integrated Healthcare Symposium. We are here with Dr. Mark Menelacino. You might remember him from the first Evolution of Medicine Summit and also one of the early functional forums where he spoke about integrative approach to Lyme disease and functional approach to Lyme disease. Mark, I know you are quadruple board certified, so you could talk about a lot of things, but now your world is really focusing in on inflammation. What are some of the some of the things that practitioners at home could do to really do a better job with inflammation, and why is it so important?
Well, the concept of inflammation spans so much of the body, and as we're looking at this personalized precision type of medicine, if you're able to tie these multiple systems together and looking at really all disease at its core is a fire of inflammation, whether the fire's in the brain, in the heart, or in the gut. We used to think depression was an antidepressant deficiency. Well, there are no receptors for Prozac, but we know that there's a cytokine storm in the brain. Michael Mace taught us about the inflammation hypothesis of depression. Dementia, at its core, it's not about the plaques and tangles, it's about the microenvironment of the inflammatory process in the brain. We used to think the brain had an immune privilege and there was no immune system in the brain. Now we know that it's intimately controlled by its own cues that are driven by external cues that work together in concert with the gut, the microbiome, and the nutrition support and nutrition deficiencies that we have. It's really becoming an exciting time as immunology is really expanding its thought basis, and we're now tying it in functional medicine to all of the different systems, and lo and behold, they all work together.
Absolutely, yeah, so key. I sort of feel like you're our secret weapon because I know you speak at a lot of conferences, but I've known you as a great educator. Tell us about what's coming up for you, because I know that you are on a mission to really educate the world about this as a key part of changing healthcare.
Well, I'm the fourth doctor in my family, and I was going to become an engineer until Dean Ornish showed up in Omaha, Nebraska. And he showed all of us that if you eat right, exercise right, deal with stress, and have love and support in your family, you don't need a cardiac bypass. That was very powerful medicine for me to see, and now 35 years later, guess what? He's right. I think that same lens now will be applied to dementia and reversing cognitive impairment and reversing Alzheimer's disease. We know that it's not a acetylcholinesterase deficiency or an Aricept deficiency. It's so much more complicated. And the beauty of what you're doing, James, in the functional medicine evolution is that it allows us to look at all those individual pieces to put them in a cohesive way where you get a synergy. I don't feel Alzheimer's will be a one-drug model. It may be something like the HIV model where it's triple drug therapy if we need the drug support. Really at the core, though, there's a subtle underlying imbalance in methylation, in the microbiome, in cognitive processing, in oxygenation. And if we can look at all of these individualities through the functional medicine lens, then we have a protocol of reversing dementia and reversing cognitive decline that is going to far exceed the mono-drug therapy.
Awesome. Well, you've got the functional integrative medicine community watching this right now. We're trying to up-level the quality of all providers. You've been doing this for a long time. What is the one tip that you would provide to this community right now on how they could practice better medicine?
Well, one of the first things I would do is look out James Maskell and find him. Because really, James, you've done such a great job at networking not only the organizations but the physicians and providing a forum and an opportunity for these messages to get heard. And it's a long way for me to fly to New York City and come and listen to a few conferences. Being able to have it electronically, having it on the web, having the functional forum available, really making this information and this connectivity. My personal message to everyone is that when you do come to the conferences, when you do the functional meetups, search out the people that resonate with you. Become colleagues with them. This is a tribe. This is a family. You'll get an amazing amount of support from people like James, from myself, from the functional medicine team, and take advantage of it. We're all working together and we love helping each other.
So just a little bit of history here on my work. Mark, I'd say you were one of the first doctors that, when I spoke, I gave my first talk at Heal Thy Practice, came up to me and believed in me, and it's gone a long way to the community. And I really appreciate you for bringing the functional medicine community to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and all the great work you do. And you'll be hearing a lot more from Mark in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you, James.
Thanks so much for being here with us at the Functional Forum. We have been here at the Integrated Health Symposium. It's been a ton of fun. This has been the May Functional Forum. Next month we are coming to you live from London. We are taking it outside the United States. We will have Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, Dr. Mike Ash from the Royal Society of Medicine London. It's the oldest medical institution in the world, and we'll be bringing the Functional Forum live to you on the 6th of June. And be there. We look forward to seeing you then. Thanks so much for the Functional Forum, and we'll see you next time.